so excited for this. So this is the tea on Black British girlhood, essentially, a conversation that I'm really excited to be a part of. And it is happening because we are celebrating the launch of Natalie and Melissa's new book, Grown, the Black Girl's Guide to Growing Up. Now, this book is actually amazing. And it's something that I really wish that I had growing up. Like, I just feel like had a lot of these conversations been had with me, or had I had the materials to know about this stuff, I probably wouldn't have grown up feeling really like insecure and awkward about things that were very, very, very normal. And so I've given this book to my little sisters and they love it. And it feels nice even to have the language to talk about, you know, your body, friendships in a way that feels relevant to you as a young Black girl. So thank you so much, Natalie and Melissa, for this great, great, great piece of work. And this event is also brought to you by Dark Matter, a creative agency that work to connect Black audiences with film and literary projects. So a big thank you to them for organizing this and helping to ideate and reaching out to everyone and putting together basically a fantastic roster of people to talk about Black British girlhood. So how's this going to go? We're going to be hearing from our panel, as well as you guys. You'll have the chance to submit loads of questions. You all know how to use the chat function. You've been telling us exactly where you are. So keep this energy, keep dropping the questions that you have or comments that you have. It's supposed to be like a big sort of, I don't want to say red table talk, because red table talk is high-key dramatic, but it is a big discussion just about Black British girlhood. So like, feel free to just get involved and let us know how you're feeling and any things that you want to share with us. Like, don't be shy. This is a space for all of us. So to get into it, let's just talk about the incredible people we have here with us. First of all, the authors, the iconic, the best friend, the dynamic duo, Natalie and Melissa. So they met at secondary school in Northeast London. Where in Northeast, can I ask? Where in Northeast London did you guys meet?
It's Enfield. You know what it is? Because you say Northeast London.
Yeah.
Like somewhere, like Stoke Newington. It's Enfield.
Yeah.
And you guys,
and you guys bonded over your shared love of books. And then years later, Melissa, now a business development manager, and Natalie, a real estate lawyer. Look, just so successful, so established. I'm loving this. You decided to channel that passion for reading into Black Girls Book Club, an amazing book club. I've had the privilege of coming to your events and just seeing you grow and doing amazing work. And now you've got your very first book out, Grown, which is just amazing. So congratulations. Thank you so much for having this event. And I'm really excited to get into the book and just your friendship and also your experience of doing this. Next up, we have Ebinehita. We have just crossed paths so many times, but never actually got to connect. And I'm actually really, really happy to be speaking with you today. So you are the founder of Milk and Honeybees, a creative and expressive safe for Black girls to flourish and put healing, empowerment and resilience first. I absolutely love this. And you're currently undergoing your professional doctorate in children and young people services. This is also amazing. And you've also contributed to the Grown book, and you also recently did a TED Talk, which I watched, which is absolutely amazing. And we're going to get into a lot of the work that you're doing, also this idea of girlhood and being robbed of your girlhood. And we're going to get into all of that. So thank you so much for being here. And last but not least, we have the amazing Serlina Boyd. Serlina founded Coco, the UK's first magazine for Black children aged 7 to 11, which is just so necessary. Because I remember growing up and picking up those magazines, and even the hair clips that they would be giving you for free, or even the makeup that they would be giving you, you could tell these people made these magazines not giving a heck about who I was and if I even wanted to read this stuff. So we're so grateful for you starting this. And essentially it aims to support not only kind of young people and having literature that represents them, but also carers and parents tackle some of the issues that young underrepresented Black people go through during their childhood. You're also a qualified childcare provider, and you've worked in the publishing industry for over 18 years. Like, you know exactly what's going on, and this is amazing, and we're really, really happy to have you here. So we're going to get into it, and we're going to start with Natalie and Melissa. you have to talk us through the process of creating this book, because I'm sure there are a lot of people who are watching today who read the book, have the book, are so inspired, and maybe see a pathway in publishing for themselves. So from idea to actually having the book like physically in your hands, talk us through that process.
Do you know what? It's kind of a long process, but when you kind of look back at it, it seems like it just happened overnight. I think essentially we had a lot of people saying to us, you guys should write a book. I think the first person was June Sarpong. So we had a really amazing event for her that we got to see at the table, which is essentially honouring Black women and giving them their flowers whilst they're still here to receive them. And at that talk, Auntie June was just spitting real facts and literally enlightening all of us. And she just took us aside and she was like, guys, now is the time to start thinking about writing a book, especially as young Black women. The market is ripe. And she was like, you guys have got an amazing friendship, and that's kind of what it should be rooted in. And I think we always had that at the back of our mind. And then as kind of time went on, and like every year we'd kind of go bigger and better. Like one year, I think before the pandemic, we had like a month-long festival. So we knew that as we were working towards these really big goals, the next step had to be this book. So Natalie was kind of the one that really pushed that forward and was like, we need to do a book. Let's do a book. And then I think once we started letting people know that we were in that kind of state of mind and we wanted to write something, a lot of people were just saying, look, talk to this person, talk to that person. And then before you know it, we met our lovely agent, Lauren. And then we ended up in Bloomsbury's offices. And then we have this.
Yes.
But there's more to it to a degree. It's like not that easy, but essentially just two people really wanting to do something for young Black girls. And literally, I hate the word hustle, but literally just hustling and talking to people and ensuring that it was going to be done. And for us, if anything, we probably wanted the book to come out 2020. But obviously pandemic, all that kind of stuff, it wasn't going to happen. But for us, it was just so important that we got this book. There was no other way it could have been. We needed to get this done. I can't think we would have done anything to get it there because we just wanted something for the baby girls.
Yeah. And why this topic as well? I guess, like, why specifically Black British girlhood? Especially because, like, I know Black Girls Book Club is for everyone, but if there are loads of kind of older people coming to the book club, what made you want to focus this on young Black girls?
I think a lot of people used to say when they come to Black Girls Book Club, like, I wish I had something when I was younger, or I wish I had sisterhood when I was younger. So that was kind of an inspiration from it, in the sense of, we can't tell people to send their daughters to our events to come and drink like Schlor and Bucks Fizz, but we can give them something that will benefit them. And I think we love books and we talk about books and we talk about the characters and we talk about the stories, but the conversation will always move on to things that are impacting Black women, whether it's like their relationships or their personal experiences, their friendships, their work environments. And a lot of how we feel about those things is determined by how we grew up, in the environment which we grew up. And we were hearing from a lot of women. We're quite lucky in the sense of, we grew up in Enfield. We went to a school that did have a lot of other Black children. There are a lot of women that come to Black Girls Book Club where they've grown up in an environment where they were the only Black person. And so where we still had questions and we still needed help and we still needed more support, when we had like that camaraderie that we're kind of all in this together as Black girls together. A lot of people didn't have that. And so when they came to Black Girls Book Club, that was their first experience of it. So that was kind of moving us to see beyond like the people that come to the book club and think about, what about the baby girls that are coming up behind us? Like, what do they need? How can we do something for them?
Yeah. And I would also ask as well, one thing I've kind of noticed is a lot of the work you do does center on this idea of like, yes, you can create something, but everybody needs to be a part of it. Even if it's like celebrating different Black authors, and in the book itself, reaching out to so many different Black women to kind of contribute. I guess, what to you guys, what is the importance of community, but also constantly asking those that came before you about their advice?
I think it's just the way we grew up. Like, I grew up surrounded by incredible, amazing Black women. And when I speak to my mum and like my aunties and whatnot, a lot of the kind of amazing things they've been able to do in their life, it wasn't just them. It wasn't just one, you know. And I know we talk a lot about, you know, we have to put ourselves first and centering ourselves, but you can only really do that when you're in a really safe space with people who care and love and support you. So I don't know, I just think as Black women, we're such community focused, and to a degree, we're always doing things for other people. So where there are so many people who are always kind of putting themselves out, for me, it was really, really important to be that person that says, you're always doing bits for others. Let us shine a light on you.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, if your sisters aren't at the table, then what is the point? You know, what is the point?
No, I love that mentality. I think it's so easy, maybe in the UK, to feel like crabs in a barrel. Do you know what I mean? When actually we can all draw from each other, we can all borrow from each other, we can all support each other in making something a success. And this book is an exact example of it. Looking through it and looking at all the contributors, all people I recognize, all people that have so much to say, and it just validates the book even more that you've actually sourced them to be like, we want to hear from you in this section. You know, it feels legit. It feels like a little Bible of sorts, like giving people everything they need, like straight from the people who know what they're doing. So thank you so much for that. And Ebinehita, I'm coming over to you. Finally, we talk. Finally, we meet. Talk us through Milk and Honeybees. Where did this idea come from, and what is the sort of work that you guys do?
So essentially, the idea came from the community, literally. So I started in my early days working with young boys. So after I graduated in 2016, I went straight into youth work and was literally working with young boys. And then a young boy I was working with actually got killed. And it was probably the toughest time in my life because I had previously already lost 9 friends to violence, including my own best friend in second year of uni. So seeing a young boy that I was working with, that was also my cousin's godson, be killed, it was difficult. And in that time, my life flashed before me. So I left home at 15, went into like the care system, and I all this stuff flashed before me. And there was a girl that everyone was like, "Oh, Ebs, that's you." And I'm like, "That's not me, please. Don't mix me." Because I didn't want to work with girls. And I'm a very honest person. So I say this openly. I didn't want to work with girls, let alone work with Black girls, because it was like looking in the mirror. But this girl she was just always there. And when somebody is always there, literally, she emulated the whole essence of my childhood, which was running after boys and always being there for boys and kind of looking after boys in the community, from making sure that they were fed, bailing them out of custody and all of these things. This girl was doing that. And so one day I thought, okay, let me try something. I didn't really know what to do. So I took her to the hairdressers and spent £25 on her. And I thought, this girl's not gonna talk to me after that. There goes my money. She's got fresh braids. But she came back to look for me. And I was like, okay, I didn't know what to do with her. So I gave her a book. And the book I gave her was a controversial poetry book called Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur. And she came back and she was very angry that I gave her this book. And she was like, you can't give me this kind of book if you're not going to talk to me and my friends about it. I said, your friends, I can just about deal with you. And literally the next 3 days later, she met me with like 7 of her friends in Catford Nando's. And that's where Milk and Honey started, literally. But just sitting in Nando's, talking to these girls about their experiences. They had lost friends 3 months apart. So 2 boys were killed 3 months apart in the borough, and nobody was really doing anything for girls. And so I spoke to my manager and I was like, look, I'm new to this, but I've got these girls and I want to do something with them. And essentially the girl today is testament. 5 years later, we're still in contact. She is the big B of Milk Honeybees. And that's how it started. It started from innovation in the community where I worked. And the work we do, like it says, like we offer so much, like a range of different things, but essentially we are more than just a project, more than just what people see. Like with our work, you have to feel it. And I think sometimes it's difficult to kind of label what we do because it looks like we're doing so much, but you have to literally feel the essence of our work. And we offer a space to Black and mixed Black girls who essentially have lost that space through education and what the education system does, or lost that space because they may not have a voice in the community. And so what my role is to offer that space to them and give them autonomy and allow them to lead everything that we do. If anybody has heard me speak, even in my TEDx talk, anytime I talk about these girls, I get very, very emotional. Like they're literally like my babies. And these are the girls that I've got at the moment and the girls that are yet to come. And the reason is I can't move unless they move. So unless they tell me, Ebby, I want to do this, I can't just do it. Like, so yeah, that's the work that they do, but mainly centering the healing, the empowerment and the resilience through my therapeutic qualification, offering them a space to know that therapy isn't something that you need to access in your adult life. And it doesn't have to be heavy. It doesn't have to be embarrassing. It can literally just be you sitting with your sisters, having a conversation over some pizza, because I'm kind of sick of Nando's now.
Yeah. That is incredible. I do have to ask though, we'll kind of go into girlhood a bit later because we'll talk a bit about your contribution to the book, but like where do you think that kind of like feeling of being apprehensive working with young Black girls came from? I know you said it was like kind of looking in a mirror, but one thing I did kind of notice is obviously now I feel like there's a plethora of activities for young Black girls, but it didn't always used to be like that. And I do remember a lot of things being centered around kind of young Black men, their kind of proximity to incarceration, and that being like a huge focus universally of like the Black British community. But it's like now obviously I'm seeing a lot more stuff for Black women, which is incredible, but I don't think it used to always be like that. And I guess what was that feeling? Because I'm sure it wasn't just you. I feel like a lot of people probably felt like we need to protect Black boys, we need to support Black boys. Where did that almost preference come from?
I think there's so many layers to this conversation, like to this question, that we could have like a whole conversation in it, like on it in general. But I think one of the key things is that the support that we give each other as Black women, especially in the education system, is harder to sustain when you come out of the education system than anybody even wants to admit. So when you are talking about sisterhood, and we're talking about sisterhood, if we look back in secondary school, especially the year 9 period, that is the time where everybody is literally growing breast, growing bum, and teasing the people that don't have it. That's literally where you're experimenting with, you know, the cool girls get their nose pierced, whereas some girls are not allowed to do that. So all of those kind of nuances that we don't have a space within anywhere to talk about these experiences outside of like our family home, literally contribute to how we feel and how we project to the world, but also how we are kind of seen like from our mothers, our aunties, our grandmas as having to be nurturers. And when you think about nurturing, you don't necessarily see the nurturing of self, you more see the nurturing of others, which means that you grow up thinking about others before you put yourself first. And I was born and raised between Peckham and Brixton. So if you think about both communities, the nuance is that the boys in the community, because of X, Y, and Z reasons, they are the ones, like you said, that need more protecting. If you look at the way that educational stats are positioned, you don't really see Black girls within those stats. You don't see the things that Black girls go through until they become women. And so for me, it's always been about going back to find out the issues that at girlhood were not spoken about. And why is it that boyhood is like a journey that transitions into manhood, but girlhood isn't a journey necessarily that transitions into womanhood in a positive way? So I think it literally comes from the community that we're in. And sometimes people don't want to have that conversation. But I always say this, and I say this openly, it also comes from us as women. I think sometimes we don't even know the contributions that we make to making Black girls invisible whilst trying to make them visible. And I think that's very important to say, like, sometimes, and it's a subconscious thing, like you might do it subconsciously. Even I've said this to Melissa before, the use of Black girls sometimes frustrates me, because when I see Black girls being used, I'm like, so where's the 16-year-old? Where's the 14-year-old? I'm not seeing them. But now I'm glad that with the movement and with Grown, for example, you're starting to see the girls, you're starting to see them take autonomy. Like if you look at Milk Honey Bees, you hardly see me, you just see them. And that's the way I kind of wanted to position it, where girlhood is at the forefront and the transition to womanhood is a journey, not necessarily something that has to be heavy and something that has to be struggle induced kind of thing.
Yeah. Thank you so much. No, that's really salient, and we will get back into that as well. And I just wanted to head over to you, Serlina. Like I was saying before, when I think of the magazines that I grew up with, like the things that I picked up, absolutely nothing to do with me. These people were like, we cater to little blonde white girls that want a pink clip in their hair to match their hair. They don't care about me at all. And I think had I had something like Coco growing up, I would have probably become a bit more of a fond reader as well. But it would be kind of good to know where this idea came from, and how you developed it and where it's going to go next.
Yeah, just firstly, Natalie and Melissa, thank you for creating this book. I grew up in a really sheltered household from a very strong Christian household. So when I wanted to find out about me, ask questions, it was like, no, my parents gave me this book, Everything a Teenage Girl Should Know. And I was just like frightened of this book because there was nothing in it I really understood. The pictures looked scary. So thank you so much for this book. And I'm excited for Faith to have it in a few years, because now she's starting to, we're starting to have, certain conversations where she's going through a little bit of puberty herself. But just going back onto how I started Coco, it was because of Faith. In, I'd say, the early or the latter part, or actually the early part of 2020, Faith was in a school where she was the only girl in the class that looked like her. And the battle constantly of her coming home and saying, Mummy, someone said this to me today. I don't like my skin because someone said that. I don't like my hair. One day I came to pick her up from school. She had this little blonde attachment hair coming down that she probably found in the lost property bin or something. But she was always trying to change who she was. And so as a mother, I wanted to do something to kind of make her see her true beauty and worth. She would always say to me, Mummy, why are you lighter than me? Why? All these little things she would come back with. And then you'd find out that family members would say, boy, you're dark like your daddy, that type of thing. That's what she was hearing all the time. So for me, I had to, I was always conscious of what I was putting in front of her. And especially where it came to TV, because children will look to characters and they want to be like them, and if they don't see themselves, they'll start to think differently about who they are. So when I wanted to get a magazine for Faith during lockdown, I went to the shops. I looked on the actual, just to see if I could find a magazine for my daughter that would basically support her and make her a little bit confident about who she is. There was nothing out there. And I know at the time I was working as a childminder, but I had 18 years experience of working in a magazine industry. So I thought, right, let's do this. Let's do this together. It was meant to be a little project for me, Daddy, and Faith, because Daddy's a photographer. But as I started designing the cover and I put it out there to the world, it literally went viral and people wanted it. We were on the BBC, we were in Access Hollywood, lots of celebrities were posting this magazine. Just further on down the line, it's just amazing just to see how many children are being touched by what we've created. We do library visits, we talk about the book, the magazine all the time, and children are always coming up and saying, thank you, this has helped me. So that's how we started the magazine. I'm just so excited. I'm so glad that this magazine is for 7 to 11-year-olds, but now there's this book that children can, go to as that extra leap, as that extra to find out more about who they are, because it's a fantastic book.
Yeah, no, that's actually incredible. And I can't help but say that I wish that I had this when I was that age, because there was just such little literature that I had access to. And I do remember growing up and just having almost like wishing I was white sometimes when I was in school, because I thought that people would be nicer to me. I thought that even my teachers would be nicer to me. I basically had this just a completely warped idea of like my own identity and my own Blackness. And one of the really stressful things I think about like Black British girlhood is like experiencing all of this stuff and it being really damaging. And then in my 20s, where I am now, when I kind of should be focusing on having a good time and enjoying and exploring, I'm having to spend all this time unlearning and going to therapy and doing the work and all of this stuff just so I can get to a place where I can fully enjoy and experience life almost. And I do kind of love how you mentioned just the use of social media in helping to promote and helping to get the magazine out there. Just the idea of the magazine alone, like seeing it have that much validation, which is amazing. When I contributed to Grown, I kind of spoke about my experiences of being online. Like I'm an extremely online person, and I kind of was, because after school I would be I was in quite a white sixth form and then quite a university, and when you can't find those physical communities, you then just look online, and then all of a sudden I was speaking to and connecting with people that had exactly the same experiences of me. And so much of my like Black British girlhood was validated by the internet, essentially, because for the first time I didn't feel so alone and so isolating. And that was just, for me, a really, really powerful tool. And Ebinehita, I know when you contributed to the book, you spoke a lot about this idea of not really getting to live or experience your girlhood. And it would be interesting to maybe hear a bit about that and why you wanted to talk about that in your contribution to Grown.
I think it's quite similar to like what everybody has spoken about. I think that when we even like, when I first heard the term girlhood, I'd never heard it in the UK. I'm just going to be real. Like, I access a lot of American spaces on the basis of my work and my research. So I'm doing a PhD at the moment, looking at the experiences of Black girlhood in schools. So when I realized what girlhood was, I was like, oh, I didn't have this. Like, you know, but when I started to actually reflect, I was like, I did. It just wasn't documented and it wasn't preserved in the way that it should have been. So my girlhood was kickers. My girlhood was just do it bag. My girlhood was pink oil that my mom didn't want me to put in my hair that I was sneaking out of her room at 7 a.m. My girlhood was relaxing my hair. My girlhood was doing poses, MSN. That was my girlhood. But if you look at like the archives, you don't necessarily see that. I don't feel like our girlhood was captured and saved. Whereas now, because of the use of social media and like girls wanted to be more at the forefront and not wanting to be like American girls, their girlhood is preserved. They're able to preserve it. And there is still a danger where it is still being adultified and taken away from them. But I feel like with me, like I'm 28. So growing up, I just wanted to rush and wear dress and heels. I just wanted to rush and be an adult. And I didn't know that this adulting thing was a scam. And I didn't know that I would have to pay for things and literally not be the baby girl that I wanted to be now. So just like you, I'm literally still unlearning and doing the work on myself to kind of preserve young Ebs and baby Ebs and little Ebs, because I feel like society took her away when I walked into that social services building and they said to me, you can't be 15. And I'm like, well, my date of birth kind of says otherwise, you know? And leaving there, getting keys and not going into a regular foster home, but going into an 18+ hostel because of how I presented, because of how I looked. So I'm quite tall. If you've met me, I'm quite tall. And when I was younger, I was literally a tom girl. I wouldn't say tomboy, I was more of a tom girl. So it's about the way that society sees Black girls always has this element of masculinity attached, which means that we can't preserve the girlhood part if you're seeing our girls as either women or young boys. And I think that's two of those things can coexist and sometimes doesn't get spoken about, because it's so easy to see a Black girl and say, oh, she's acting older than she needs to be. And I used to get that a lot. So it's like my innocence, you didn't necessarily get to see it. If I was crying, it was more like, oh, she's seeking attention or she's acting up. It's never really, I'm feeling pain. Now in like our womanhood, for example, we are literally reclaiming our girlhood whilst trying to support other girls to hold on to their girlhood. Like I've got girls that I support at the moment that are like 21, 22, 23 that came to Milk Honeybees when they were 17. And society would say, why are you still working with them? But I say, why not? Exactly. You know, the adolescent brain isn't developed till 25. So we have this thing in society where on your 18th birthday, you're just meant to wake up, boom, you're an adult. Whereas that's not true. You know, if the adolescent brain doesn't develop till 25, why do we rush our children to becoming adults at 18? Whereas we need to preserve that till 25. In a lot of European countries, a young person, you're still young until you're 30. So I guess I got one more year.
Yeah, you got some time. You got a little bit of time to be an adult. And I think even on that point, like, it would be good to hear from everyone, you know, what does Black British girlhood mean to you? And what was your experience of it? And whilst everyone is saying that, everybody who is in the chat, please send some questions, because we're going to throw it over to you guys. And you're going to give us your thoughts and throw any ideas to the panel that you'd like them to discuss as well. So, Melissa, I'm going to come to you first. What does Black British girlhood mean to you?
Do you know what it reminds me of? Like being 13, 14 and having like a dummy like around your neck, like lollipops in your hair. But I had to take mine out quick before it's time to go home, because if my mum saw me, she'd be like, that is not how I sent you to school. It was like the little Winnie the Pooh rucksack. I was like stuffing my books into them. I was like, your books can't fit into there. It's like all of that kind of stuff. It's kind of interesting when we think about it, because there's this idea that, you know, Black girls are grown or they're too fast, etc. But a lot of the things that we were doing during school time and all like the fashions were actually trying to make us like children to a degree. It's like the antithesis of what people kind of see us as. But yeah, I just remember being at the back of the bus, just making lots of noise, eating fried chicken, and yeah, just being noisy. I didn't have a mobile phone, but other people did. So like the music at the back of the bus is like all of that kind of energy. I just think Black British girlhood was just, for me growing up, was just joy. It was just noise. It was just hugs. It was just people loving on you and just accepting you for who you are. Like I really like look back to like my teenage years quite fondly to a degree. But yeah, like just enjoyment is what I would say.
I love that. Anyone asking questions or leaving comments, remember to put your name and then whatever you want to say, because I think there's a bug that says all of the comments and questions are coming from one person, but there's loads of people there, not just one. Natalie, over to you. Talk to us about Black British girlhood.
I think sometimes I look back at it and it seems like a little bit of a blur, because I feel like it happened too quickly. So it's like you finally get that independence going to secondary school, and by the time you blink, like secondary school is over. And like you say, you're 16 and it's like your girlhood is over now. You're meant to be an adult, you're doing A-levels or whatever you're doing, or you're working, and your life is like now, it's like taken like a turn to become so serious. But I think the thing that I liked was going to Wood Green and like buying trainers and wearing like coordinating, so a baby blue top and a baby blue trousers, and just going cinema. And I like the idea. I think the best bit of girlhood is like when you just meet your friend, you get on the bus and you don't have no plans for that day, but you still end up having like the best day, like meeting this person, going here, going there, going Nando's, going cinema. I think some of my fondest memories are trying to sneak chicken and chips into the cinema in Wood Green because we didn't want to pay for popcorn because it was extortionate.
It still is, mate.
Or like when we were, I think when we were kind of like in Wood Green, and then we would meet other people and we'd all go shopping together, and you take like your £20 from your mum and you'd make that stretch into like a nice top with nice trousers that match, and then you'd get like the side clips there, and you have like the 99p lip gloss. Yeah. It's all coming back to me now. I just like the freedom of waking up on Saturday after you've done your chores and your homework, and you and your friend going with no plans. Like today, it seems like where we're meeting, what time we're meeting, what we do.
Yeah.
Everything is so structured. Like when I was that age, 14, 15, you get on the W3 and you just see where the Lord leads. Like you didn't have plans. Like,
Yeah, the £1 bus pass. Do you remember? Yeah, all you need is a pound. You get on the £1 bus pass and just make your way to wherever you are going. The good old days.
Life was so easy, honestly. And Serlina, what would you kind of say comes to your mind when you think of your experience of Black British girlhood?
Again, just pure joy. When Melissa was talking, I was like, yes, Natalie as well, because just going back to school, I had so much fun. Secondary school was the best time of my life. Got my hair relaxed for the first time after begging my parents, please relax my hair. And just feeling like when I came to school, because when I got my hair relaxed, got it cut short, when I came to school, nobody recognized who I was. So I could like start again, be somebody different, and just feeling like, yeah, just like there was so much to do. The summers were amazing. The fashion, getting like fake Moschino shoes and trying to pass them as real, shoes, or just like the Benetton bags, the colors, all of that. I just had so much fun. I lived in South London as well, so I lived in Woolwich, so there wasn't much representation back then, but I'd go to Lewisham and pick up my stretch jeans and like literally like just having that environment, just feeling like I can be me. So yeah, I just had pure joy. And also it was a time of discovering who I was, because as I said, I grew up in a real sheltered home. But when I got out of that house, I could be a different Serlina, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was, yeah, I just have so much fond memories. I always say, I wish I could go back. I wish I could go back and meet up with my friends, be on the bus again, making noise, laughing, joke, I wish I could just go back one day.
Honestly, like when I think about the freedom, like a life without having to sync calendars with people, or you are asking to meet up and you're doing, this December 14th at 2 p.m. And you're like, damn, like this just, I miss the spontaneity of it all and just how easy it felt. Like it was the best time. Ebinehita, share your Black girlhood musings with us.
I think everything, but mainly the moments that you share with, like everyone said, like your friends, and being able to have platonic relationships with everyone that weren't necessarily built on anything. So those moments in the cinema, you was trying to sneak chicken and chips. We was trying to sneak each other into the cinema. Like literally Streatham Cinema did not want us in there. But also like going to like I grew up like in Lambeth, so like Funky Friday used to happen in Streatham, for example, the ice skating rink. And we had like country show, all of those moments where, like Natalie said, you could wear your skinny jeans that had the crowns on the back with the long sleeve top, that put the vest top over. The color coordination was mad. But those moments for me, and I saw a tweet recently that said, when you go to school and come back with a different hairstyle and your mom tells you to take it out because you did your hair at lunchtime, those kind of things are like the key moments of my girlhood. And I think when I think about it, even in the hardest times, because let's be real, like as much as we had all this joy, there was times where it was just like, wow, this is heavy, but we were able to laugh it off. And I don't know why there was this essence of being able to use humor to heal pain. Like, I don't know if I grew up in South London, so everybody used to try and pack on this one bus, and then something mad happens, and there's always that one girl that just starts laughing, and you're thinking something crazy's just happened, but you're laughing, and it was like a collective laugh. And even getting told off by the aunties in Brixton, that was also part of my girlhood, because that was an everyday thing. Like that sense of community was just, it was there. It was there, definitely.
Yeah, no, agreed. When I think of like girlhood, everything everyone said pretty much. But yeah, for me, I think a lot of it is just like friendship. Like I kind of just felt like all of my friends were going through the exact same things. You know what I mean? We all had like more or less single parent households. We were all essentially like second parents to our younger siblings. Like there was a lot of, like you said, adultification, like feeling so much older than we actually were. But when we got to hang out together, that's when I felt like a girl. Do you know what I mean? That's when I could really abandon all of those responsibilities that forced me to grow up, and I could just kind of be dumb and do dumb stuff with my friends. And so I think, honestly, a lot of what I experience or think of when I think of girlhood is just like having that small community that I can be immature, I can laugh at dumb things, I can be ridiculous in this space, because this is where we get to offload all of the additional responsibilities that stop us from having that fun. And so honestly, I love it so much. And the food and the chicken shops and having no money and making it stretch, and those weird boutiques, getting them stretchy trousers for school. Like, honestly, it was just ridiculous. I remember I used to like put like weird pins and ribbons on my school blazer. Like, I feel like when I was younger, I had so much more like creativity, and I was so free about expressing myself in a way that today I'd be like, wow, what would people think? Do you know what I mean? I was so fearless then. Like, I had my SpongeBob laces and my SpongeBob pouch bag and my yellow jeans, and I was like so unapologetic about the weird stuff that I liked. And then I kind of got older, and then I was a bit like, now I care about how presentable and how respectable I am. Whereas back then, being respectable was just not something that I ever really cared about. So damn, it gets tough. But we're gonna head into our Q&A. There's actually a Q&A box, so you can also put your questions in there, but there's also some questions actually in the comments. So I think I will go to this first one from Sarita. And she says, I know there are some in the book, but if you guys could suggest one book, album, or film to a young Black baby girl, what would it be?
Ooh, do you know what? I'm going to go with The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, because I think that came out in 99, and that's the year that we went into secondary school. And I remember I stole it from like my cousin Charlene, and the way I was rinsing out that album, I just felt like it really spoke to me. And you know, like you just think that you'll just learn everything about life just listening to the lyrics. I just remember thinking I was so like mature and grown up, even though I didn't really know what she was talking about, but I just really felt it. So for me, that album, even though I was listening to it today, like I just think it just transcends every generation. I think it's something that Black girls can really just switch into.
Yeah. What about you, Natalie?
You know what? Some of the stuff I want to recommend, because I read or listened to when I was younger, I don't know if it's appropriate, but I would definitely say, this is a bit left field, but I would say Destiny's Child's like Independent Woman album. Because that was the first album I bought for myself. And when you think about some of the themes in that song, just listening to it as an adult, it was like very, very, very self-determining and very, very, very empowering. So I used to listen to it and I think I'm a survivor and stuff. And I used to think, oh, they're just singing this because they dash people out of their group. But when you actually think about the lyrics and just how we felt about that group at that time, or how I felt about that group at that time, that album, not only being the first album I purchased myself with my own £10 pocket money, but just some themes are just, that's my girlhood there. And if it's a book to read, I would say The Coldest Winter Ever, but it comes with a warning that some of the things are very wild.
Yeah. And Serlina, what would you recommend?
You know what? Yesterday I put on, because I homeschool my children, and we were dancing to DJ Cassidy's Little Mix on like the 90s music back then. And I just feel like Faith and my son, they hadn't heard that before. And it was like, they were so into all of that music. So I love, back in the day music. I think the music now is a little bit different. I'd say, I'll just say, the SWVs, the old school Brandy, all of those songs are just amazing. But also, I started reading because I grew up in New York as a child, and I started reading books by Rosa Guy, and it just changed my life. She's an amazing author. And one of the books that I just really connected with was called The Friends. Absolutely brilliant book. As well. So that's my little contribution, I'd say. But another book I'd recommend is by Rosa Guy, The Friends.
Cool. And Ebinehita, what films, books, shows, media would you recommend to young Black girls?
So I would say book-wise, I was going to say The Coldest Winter Ever. As well, and it is quite a heavy book, but I think that it's a book that has so many different themes that you can explore. If you can't connect with it directly, your friend definitely is going through some of those experiences. And song-wise, I was definitely going to say The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, but to keep it more relevant to what they're going through now, I'm going to say any Peng Black girls.
Ebinehita, did you call me old?
No.
I'm just making sure about keep it more relevant. I'm going up. Keep it more relevant.
I would never call you old. All right. You just want to do this with me on screen today.
I'm being naughty, innit? But I'm being naughty. I'm going to put myself back on mute.
But I think there's something about that song, and both the original and the remix. And the reason I say this is because there was a lot of controversy around the remix and, colorism and all of these things that we experience in our community. Yes. But essentially that song, if you listen to both the original and the remix back to back, you will understand that Eni and Amina and Georgia all have an element of Peng Black girl within themselves that they was trying to spread a message to everybody else. And I think if you can listen to the Miseducation and the old stuff, what Peng Black girls did for me is reminds me of the teachings of the Lauryn Hills of the world. And you literally can hear the passion of the nostalgia within Annie's voice and Amina's voice. And also Georgia, she came and laid down those vocals. We're not going to take it away from her. But essentially, when I think about the girls now, and I think about how, you know, growing up, everybody had a certain look. If you was bad, you was in tracksuit. If you was like this, you was in... These girls now are literally just, the creative potential is limitless. Have you seen their nails? Have you seen their makeup? Yeah, girl, they are the pioneers of everything. So for me, Peng Black Girls really, really centered them and said, like, I don't want to look like the Kardashians. No, I want a butt like my auntie. Yo, okay. So
yes. So I think for me, yeah, I don't know if this is a bit too risque, but I think somebody that really helped me come into a lot of like my Blackness back in the day when she was less controversial, I would definitely say is Azealia Banks. And I say this because when I first like listened to Azealia Banks' music and like just got into her as a character and as a personality, I was like in my second year of sixth form, and like I would just watch her interviews and I would watch how she would speak about how Black women were treated in the music industry, her experiences of colorism and racism and sexism. And she taught me so much. And I think that was like the early stages of my like radicalization or whatever. And I remember listening to her song like Licorice, where she basically just like talks about being a Black girl in the most sometimes vulgar, but sometimes incredibly smart and witty ways. And for me, it was so empowering. And I think like when I got into university and I was in a space that was super white, it was just like listening to her music, watching her interviews, like validating the experiences that I was having at uni, when I just felt like I feel like I'm being treated differently. I feel like people are being weird to me. And I know I'm not crazy, because Azealia Banks went on the radio and started crying about this because she was like, these people steal everything and they literally hate me. And I'm like, I hear that. So honestly, yeah, it's so weird because I think like you're never going to have someone who is perfect or completely encapsulates it all, and like Black women can just be as flawed as everyone else. And so I've had to make my peace of her being absolutely ridiculous, but once giving me great gems when I was younger. And another question we have is, what advice would you give your younger selves if you could just find her today in the middle of Wembley Market? What would you say to her? And I'm going to start with Natalie.
I would just say, just take it easy. Like, it's not that deep. Like, it's not that serious. Some things that we feel like are so serious and so integral to life. And it's like, if it doesn't work out, it's really the end of our existence, are actually not that deep. So I would just say to her, like, just enjoy this time more, because you won't get this time back. Like, you've got the rest of your life to be like grown, or to be an adult, or to be, you know, doing adulting and paying bills and stuff like that. Just enjoy the now and enjoy the time that you have, and just lean into it. So yeah.
Agreed. Serlina?
I've been asked this question so many times, and I want to tell my younger self that whatever problems you're going through at the time, it's just going to make you stronger. It's actually preparing you for what's to come. So just keep going, keep pushing. Yeah, that's what I'd like to tell my younger self. I was always a worrier. But yeah, I would say just keep pushing through whatever problems you've got. It contributes to the greatness that's coming in the future.
And what about you, Melissa? What would you say to your younger self?
You know what? I would actually say just trust your judgment. I had a lot of like situations in life where I would think, I want to do this, and then I'd allow other people like to change my mind about it. And then in the end, I was like, oh, I should have just done what I said I was going to do the first time. So I think just trust your gut instinct. It's there for a reason. I think there's a reason, especially as Black women, we are quite intuitive. I think just trust yourself, you know. I think we do a lot of work like with therapy and like working ourselves and discussing things with friends and whatnot, but a lot of the answers are actually within you. So I would just, if I could meet younger baby Mel, I would just say, you're on the right track. Like, don't let anyone tell you different.
Amen. And Ebinehita, what would you say?
I'm not gonna say what I tell my younger self all the time here. But essentially one of the things that I would say to my younger self is your voice matters. Because a lot of the time, like, I think my expressions and how I would use my voice was like always monotoned growing up. But I would tell my younger self, you don't need to fit into anybody's box. If you want to scream, scream. If you want to sing, sing, and just play. That's literally it.
Yeah, I love it. I think I would definitely I tell myself to not be so hard on me, because I think I was dealing with so much when I was younger that like only now in adulthood I'm fully understanding. And I think like getting my ADHD diagnosis last year, just like it was just this weird moment when I was like every single thing in my life made sense. Like I really struggled to concentrate. I struggled to be present. I was like working extremely hard, but I was like really tired. And like, do you know what I mean? I used to be so hard on myself. I remember I used to like drink lots of like terrible energy drinks and be popping caffeine tablets like they were like paracetamols, because I would be willing myself to like work. But for some reason, I just couldn't, like my brain would just not function. And I was really unkind and really, really mean to myself growing up, because I was dealing with so much that I just didn't understand. And so I wish I could just be like, do you know what? It's okay, chill. Like, it's not that there's something wrong with you. It's not that you have a terrible personality, but there is something else there and you just don't know about it yet. So I think I would definitely say that actually. When I think about what I'd say to my younger self, I do feel quite emotional, because it's just like, oh, you were so young and so ignorant and you had no idea what you were going through. But yeah, I made it out. We all did, which is amazing. And then another question that we have, which I think is quite a good one. Can you each share a motto that you live by? I don't actually have one, but I'm interested to know if anyone else does, because I feel like I need something to say to myself every morning. Do you know what I mean? That just gets me ready to go or helps me feel motivated or focused. And Ebony, I'm gonna...
I have so many, and they all come from songs. I'm not like one of those people that's got, they do that proper mantra, like, oh, look in the mirror, you're beautiful. Mine's like, stay scheming. And the one I got from Spice, you can't beat me, that's number one. So sometimes I wake up in the morning before I've got like something to do, I just say to myself, you can't beat me, that's number one. And that just puts me in the right frame of mind. I'm sure all of you guys have got like nice, sensible things. Me, I just like to gas myself up in the morning, like when I've got like a big task to get on with. Just like you said about Azealia Banks, listening to Azealia Banks, listen to Licorice and get yourself in that mood. Like that's kind of like my vibe, because if not, I can really kind of bog myself down with like the intricacies of things. So I just like to gas myself up as best as I can. So yeah, that's me. Stay scheming.
Love it. Ebinehita, give us a motto, give us something to live by.
Yeah, literally one of my favorite tattoos that I've got is that anything is possible with faith, hope, and love. And then the other one that I live by is where words fail, music speaks. And just like you, like I love music, and a lot of my mottos come from music. But I feel like sometimes when you don't have the words, you can literally use music to speak. And yeah, so I live by those two things basically.
I love it. Serlina, let us know.
Yeah, one thing my dad always used to say to me, and now I take it on board, is if you have a problem, sell the solution. So whatever problem you've got, literally just sell the solution, come up with something to solve it. So that's the motto I use.
I'm on mute. Natalie, let us know. What are you living by?
It's not that deep.
Simple but powerful. Did you die? There's also another one.
Yeah, I don't want to say that. I don't want to speak death into people's life. No, them ones there. Like, don't speak that on me. Yeah, it's not that deep.
Someone's also written here, go where they are loved, go where they love you, not where you're tolerated, which I really, really like, actually. That's a really good one. Oh, someone's asked, how did you get your ADHD diagnosis? I got it done through work. The company I was working for at the time paid for my diagnosis, but I've written a lot about that, so you can have a look on Refinery 29 if you want to read a bit more about that. We have a question that is for Ebinehita, and is what has been your proudest moment since you founded Milk and Honeybees?
Oh, I get this question a lot, and I'm gonna say it's the girls. It's the girls. I know what people are expecting me to say about like the things that I've done, and I know Melissa's gonna squeeze her face up when I say this, but I'm very humble. Yeah, I'm gonna say it just today. Today will be the last time that I say it. I'm not promising, but I'll probably say it again when you're not around. But I'm very humble. Like, yeah, I've done a lot, but for me, the proudest moment is the girls. Like, I've got girls that came to me at 14 that are turning 18 next year. Like I said, I've got girls that came to me at 17 that are in uni doing bits. I've got girls that are 8, 9, 10 writing for like projects, doing things that they never thought that they could do. So for me, the proudest moment is the sustainability and the girls that we've been able to have, and watching them grow, watching them flourish, watching them, like, if you've ever seen my girls speak or you've heard them speak, you know for a fact that these girls are going to be the women of tomorrow that lead and shake systems and shake tables and become everything and anything that we were reluctant to become. So for me, it's the girls. And I'll say, yeah, my TEDx talk, because essentially 2020, I took the girls to TEDx London Women 2020. And one of them said, I want to come back, but I will not come back if you're not speaking. And just like I pestered Melissa to get in the book, I pestered TEDx London to make me speak, because I'm a very persistent person. Like, I'm very rich in opportunity, and I believe that if you want it, you're going to go for it. Like, I literally say this all the time. No one's going to block me from doing anything that I want to do. Because if I can be 15 and survive the things that I survived and the things that I can see, I can be 28, 38, 48, 58, 60, 100, and still be opening doors for the people that have come before me and will come after me. So for me, it is my baby girls. And those are the girls that I work with directly and the ones that I reach indirectly through social media, through contributing to books, through doing talks. It's Black and mixed.
Yeah, thank you for that. We have about 10 more minutes of Q&A, so make sure you get your questions in either in the chat or in the Q&A box. And one question that we got in was, how do you feed your inner child as an adult? Which feels like such a like therapy question. Serlina, how do you feed your inner child?
I'd just say it's quite a hard question, but I'd say that a lot of the time I go to music. So I used to teach singing in schools, but music is how I feed that. As I said yesterday, actually today or yesterday, just dancing with my children in the kitchen, listening to the 90s music from back in the day, and just basically having fun with that. So that's how I necessarily do that. I just refer back to music that I've had from a child.
Is Chanté frozen, or is she just giving us space?
A bit of both.
Because her face card does not decline anyway.
Maybe I didn't answer the question properly, and she just I thought it was me frozen.
No, I got confused. I was like, what's going on? But she's giving face. Her face card does not decline. We just wait for her to come back, innit?
Oh, yeah.
So guys, in the chat, whilst we wait for Chanté to come back, what are you guys currently reading? I'm very nosy and I need to add more books to the pile that I'm definitely not going to read, but I just like to buy just for fashion.
I literally just got, I can't remember what it's called, I'll send it to you, but the Pride and Prejudice revamp for like,
yes,
and I'll send it. I went to the bookshop today, I got some books, I'll send it to you.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome Sorry, back. I lost you there. I have no idea what happened. It just froze and then the whole thing closed and I was literally. But what did I just miss? Now I'm like, I know I've just missed some gems and I'm really upset.
Yes, because first of all, I thought that you were giving us space, like you're just posing. I was like, oh wow, she looks good. She looks good, innit? And then I was like, wow, she did this for like a long time, but come on, we got 10 minutes. So then I said, okay, guys, what books are you reading? Then you came back. You didn't miss anything. You look so good. It's like a nice little pose. It was a nice pose. I thought, okay, maybe she's like looking at herself in the camera and she just thinks I look good today. But clearly, it was just a malfunction.
Oh, yeah, like I do be loving myself, but I do not be loving myself that much to be in the middle of the event just do not posing. I'm so stressed. And now I've lost literally all of the questions.
Oh no. Hold on.
Distress. Sorry, but there are some really good book suggestions down here. You guys were talking about books. Amazing. And I need to remind everyone that the conversation will be available on Dark Matter's YouTube channel within the next week. So if you watch this and you were like, this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen, I wish I could share this with all my friends, you absolutely can. I have actually lost the questions, which is really stressing me out. So please do rewrite your questions inside the chat or on the actual question thingy, but there doesn't seem to be any. So I guess, do you guys have any final departing words for our lovely audience here about how they can support other young Black British girls have an enjoyable girlhood, or on even how they can continue as Black women and just be joyous, because this has been such a joyous conversation. And I'm gonna throw this to Serlina.
Can someone else answer first so I can just really think about how I'm gonna answer?
Oh, I like this. I feel like yours is gonna be really, really good.
It may not. I just need a little bit more time.
I think Melissa should go first.
Yes.
Look, yeah, all right. Look, Ebinehita, you're always trying to do little sister with me, and not today.
Dynamic. I can't lie. This has been really good.
But she's such a sweetheart, I must say, because she speaks about pestering me. And I just want to say something. Ebinehita did not pester me. What happened was, last year was a very, very difficult year for me. With my grandma passed away, I had health problems, everything was just stress. And every time she would come and message me, I'd be like, babe, please, like, not in a rude way, I'm going through it right now. I can't concentrate on you wanting to be in this book when I can barely write the book. And then she just kept on asking me, and then something in my spirit said, if somebody wants to be in this book that you're creating, something that you love so much, and they seem to care about it as much as you do, just speak to her. So as I started speaking to her, I just saw just how much she loved and was investing in Black British girlhood. For me, I was like, that's the connection there. And as soon as I just said to her, yeah, just do what you need to do, she just went away and wrote her piece and brought it back to me. And I always think to myself, if I had kind of just stayed in my hole, I was like, oh, I'm not engaging with anyone, I can't do this anymore, like I'm not engaging, then I wouldn't have connected with her. But even more so, she wouldn't have uplifted me and kind of taken me out of that, I wouldn't say depressive mode, but I just felt so low. And it was so lovely just to speak with somebody who got it, like in the way that I did. So yeah, so stop saying you pestered me, because you didn't pester me. And I always think to myself, if I was at her age, if I had known how to pester people, maybe I would have more successes. So you didn't pester anybody, you just knew what you wanted to do and you went for it. In terms of what I would want younger girls to know, or things that we need to do for young girls, I'll say invest in your sisterhood, invest in your friendships, invest in the people around you who love, care and support you, because they're the ones that are going to have your back when you're going through shit. And it's all well and good, we're like, oh, I can do bad by myself, I'm an independent woman, yeah, and we all do it, and we all say it, depending on what situation we're in at the time. But when you think back to all of the shit, and sorry to swear if they're like little baby girls here, but when you think about all the things that you've gone through in life that have just been overwhelming and you've struggled, think about who was with you at that time. It was your girlfriends, it was your friends. So I always say invest in sisterhood. And you might not necessarily find those girlfriends in secondary school. You might not find them in uni, but you will find your tribe, even if it's one person along the way. So just invest in the people who are around you and just show them love, care and support always, because what you give out, you're going to get back. So, and that's my message to the baby girls, and actually some of the big women, because not every day, I'm always the best friend, so I have probably some message to myself as well, but I would say just invest in those who love, care and support you.
Love it. Natalie, advice to young Black girls, or advice to people on how they can nurture young Black girls?
I think my advice would be just to try different things and to be open-minded. Sometimes when you're young, you're very much like, this is this is my path, this is what I'm doing. I can't really do anything outside of that. So I'd always say, like, just be open-minded. Think about saying yes to something before you say no, and don't limit yourself in terms of what you think you can and cannot do. Just be open and willing to do like different things, because that's sometimes where we have the best life experiences, when we open our perspectives and we do different things. And I think in terms of like nurturing your inner child, I would just say, just be kind and just be nice to yourself, because 9 times out of 10, when people are looking back at kind of moments in their childhood that they didn't enjoy, it's probably because someone else didn't show them kindness and compassion, and someone else didn't let them have the room just to be them and to be loved and valued. And sometimes we internalize that and we repeat that in adulthood. So I would just say, you really want to nurture your inner child, just come at it from a perspective of kindness and compassion for yourself and for others around you. That would be my first step. So yeah.
Love it. Ebinehita, advice on how we can continue to nurture young Black girls?
I think by allowing them to take up the space. I don't want a situation where Black girls feel like they have to join tables. I want them to create their own and have autonomy over those spaces. I think also, as Black women, setting an example and letting them know that we support each other no matter what, not seeing each other as a threat, competition, but where there's conflict, settling it in a way that there's peace and not war, essentially, because we have to set an example. And like I always say, I'm not perfect. I'll make mistakes, but I can own up to my mistakes, because I know that there's a young girl, my inner child, a baby girl who's unborn, that will see me one day and look at me as not just a role model, but a real model. And I think allowing Black girls to know that you don't have to be strong, you can be vulnerable, you can be still, you can be as ghetto fabulous or as luxury as you want. You don't have to fit into anybody's box, because I definitely don't. The same way I will look like a ghetto woman walking through Brixton the next is the same way that I will switch it up for Harper's Bazaar the next day. So I just think allowing Black girls to be who they want to be and present how they want to present. And this is mainly for parents. I always say this. Don't always believe what the education system says. Fight for your child. I know that you get tired. I know that it gets hard. I know that sometimes that girl may have quote unquote attitude, but you know what? Tomorrow she might be like me and get paid for her attitude. So embrace her. And I say this to parents a lot, because a lot of the time teachers get away with what they get away with because your mom or your auntie didn't show up for you the way that you needed them to. So yeah.
You're spitting right now. And last but not least, Serlina, what advice would you give to people to help them continue nurture young Black girls?
I'd say my advice would be that you are special, you are important, you matter as well. And for me, especially with the magazine, there's a lot of times where we've kind of celebrated people, groups, organizations in the magazine. And, you know, at the end of the day, for me, I don't want money or anything for that. It's just allowing people to be seen. And so basically, my advice would be always be nice to people, always make sure that you are setting the example, yes, but also make sure that at the end of the day, that you always know that you are important. For instance, just going off topic a little bit, but the children that write for my magazine, they're all different, they're young. Our fashion editor has her own fashion sense. She doesn't follow what's going on outside, she just is her. And that's one thing that I love about the magazine, that these children can be themselves. There's no competition, there's no, they're just being who they are. And that's something that I love about the magazine. So yeah, I just have this advice to children or young girls to be you. Don't worry about who's doing what or who's doing, you know, around you or the competition around you. Just make sure that you are being you. So that's my advice that I can give, and always allow others to shine.
Thank you so much. I keep muting myself because there are just fireworks going on everywhere and they're just so loud and disruptive. But that brings us to the end. It's now 8:15 and this has been such an incredible discussion. Like, I just left it feeling really, really validated. You guys gave amazing advice. All of these book recommendations, I'm actually going to go and buy them. Gonna go listen to some Lauryn Hill, gonna go listen to some Azealia Banks, and just bask in the joy that was this conversation. So thank you everybody at home for joining and sending in your questions and just reacting to things that you found funny or things that you resonated with. This felt like a really, really nice discussion. Obviously it wasn't in person, it was online, but I still felt the vibes all the way here in Wembley. So thank you so much. And remember, you can watch this online later when it's uploaded. But have a lovely evening, and thank you so much to all of our hosts, all of our panelists for joining. Yeah, enjoy the rest of your nights, my loves. And bye, grown.